Hi guys, so the UK steel sector needs to reform post-Brexit, as once again Britain is a rule taker, not a rule maker. A potential trade barrier is in place if steel produced in the United Kingdom does not meet new EU carbon reduction measures. A levy is to be imposed in order to stop companies from outsourcing their emissions, and this includes steel. So this week Tata Steel announced the layoffs of about 3,000 workers, even as the UK government plans to pump £500 million into the sector to help it avoid the tariffs I mentioned before. Now this is terrible news, you would think, but no, this is a good day for British Steel, according to the Business Secretary Kemi Badenoch. Have a listen.
You know that Tata Steel was asking for much more than this, up to £1.5 billion to protect and really transform this site with all the available technologies that could come here. Instead, with £500 million, it's electric arc and all the implications for the downstream as well. You have to accept that what you've negotiated may be good for the taxpayer in terms of the amount of money you're spending on this, but the casualty is the workforce.
That's completely wrong. This is good for the taxpayer. This is good for the workforce, because actually when we do have new electric arc furnaces, we're going to be able to have many more industries. We can have offshore wind. There'll be a whole redevelopment of the site. This is actually a great deal, not just for Port Talbot, but for the UK. And what I would say to people who are concerned about job losses is that we do understand, and we have a transition plan in place that's funded up to about £100 million to make sure that people have skills to retrain and move on to other things if they don't want to stay in the steel industry. But this plant is going to be continuing. It'll continue to be a processing plant and be up and running throughout that period. So this is a good news story.
You're subsidising Tata Steel here. You're subsidising the Gigafactory in Somerset. You're probably going to subsidise British Steel as well. Is this the government's industrial strategy now?
This is a plan that has been several years in the making. We are operating in a global environment, and if you look at what is happening with steel across the world, you look at the oversupply from China, you look at the steel arrangements that the EU as well as the US want to put in place, everybody is doing something to make sure that they have capacity and they are resilient. We want to continue to see steel making in the UK. Something does need to be done. This is the right plan, and we as a government are very proud of it and very happy to have worked with Tata to come to a good conclusion.
What absolute tripe. Okay, so first of all, 3,000 people losing their jobs, and our response is, well, don't worry, we have some package in place to help people retrain if they don't want to work in the steel sector. Good luck to those people. You're on your own, basically. Now, when it comes to Tata, well, what Tata seem to be doing here is they're saying, well, we're going to pull out because we're not going to be able to export our steel into the European Union, because we're not going to be able to compete when it comes to these, if these tariffs are imposed, we're not going to be able to compete. So they go to the UK government and say, help us out. Now, as a consequence of Brexit, we need support. And the UK government says, okay, here's £500 million. We saw it before, and rightly brought up by the Sky News journalist here. A gigafactory asking for money, or was given money, I should say, in order to stay in Britain. These are all direct consequences of Brexit. This is not regular investment. This is a direct consequence of Brexit. And what is the point in the government giving these companies money to get round a problem and not actually nationalize these companies? Wouldn't it make more sense if the government actually nationalized these companies? Because then you'd actually be able to benefit from the profits. But no, it's taxpayer money given to private companies, and then they benefit from the profits made, and the government don't. This is propping these companies up. This is discouraging them from leaving Britain because of Brexit. How is this an advantage? Now, she sort of hinted at, well, the US and the EU are changing the way they do things, because the problem is that, as I said at the beginning, the European Union is bringing in new measures to reduce carbon emissions. And before, companies could just buy carbon credits and then just continue to pollute. And the EU is cracking down on that. And the steel industry is one of the biggest producers of carbon emissions. So they're saying we can't continue down this this route. We can't continue allowing this sort of loophole. So we have to close it. So the steel sector is saying to the government, give us some money. And if the government say no, then they'll close. And tens of thousands of jobs potentially could be lost. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.